The last Star Trek movie was Beyond in 2016. With numerous announcements of sequels and movies, we're almost at our 7-year mark with nothing to show for it. So, are Star Trek movies cursed? Some recent comments by Chris Pine, who played Captain Kirk in the reboot movies, has given us insight into what the future may bring for the Star Trek movie universe. In an Esquire interview with Chris Pine about his upcoming Paramount movie, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, the interviewer just had to ask about how the Star Trek movies are going, because of course. The most interesting comments are these, on screen now. When I speak to producer J.J. Abrams by phone, the search for director is ongoing. Abrams is elliptical about the film, even by J.J. Abrams standards. I will say it's the first time, since the original reboot, that we have a story that feels as compelling as the first one. So, at the current moment, it seems like they have a story already written, but who will direct the movie hasn't been decided. Who might have written the movie, though, is not known, as the number of Trek movie news we've had in recent years is a lot, with many different creative names being thrown about. From Rings of Power showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay to Fargo writer and director Noah Hawley. However, regarding the story, Chris Pine also has thoughts, mostly in trying to have a Trek movie become a mega hit at the box office. Something that Trek movies have never been when you compare it to the likes of other Star franchises and Marvel movies. Pine said, I always thought, why aren't we just appealing to this for a really rabid fan group and making a movie for a good price and going on our merry way, instead of trying to compete with the Marvels of the world. This is a very good point. Some Trek movie concepts would appeal to the Star Trek fandom, even if some people dislike the Kelvin timeline. So many fans still love the Kelvin timeline and even grew up watching it or got into Star Trek through it. Doing a Kelvin-verse version of Star Trek The Voyage Home is one way to really appeal to that rabid fanbase, as Pine describes it. A way to have a movie for a good price. How creatively bankrupt the idea might be, when Star Trek Beyond free to dismiss repetition of the past with Into Darkness before it, who knows. However you may feel about it, it is a way to have a Trek movie that honours the past and does a new thing in an alternate timeline. You've got to wonder what the alternate whales are going to be like. Strange New Worlds is a prime example of this, with its 10th episode, A Quality of Mercy. It's being an alternate timeline retelling of a classic TOS episode, Balance of Terror. Having the baseline of a classic episode of a film, but alternating and showing how, with preceding events differing, how it can actually be different. We could even have a Kelvin verse of The Final Frontier, and actually make it a better movie than the original. Just saying. Now, talking of Strange New Worlds, another option is for J.J. Abrams to work with the creatives who are making the Trek TV shows at the moment. If he and Paramount are searching for a director, there is still 4 amazing directors who would be amazing with a Trek movie. Obviously Jonathan 2 Takes Frakes comes to mind, having directed the movie First Contact and having that movie experience. But other directors like Hanelle Culpepper or Atlante Sumi, who directed Discovery, could finally make Star Trek 4. There is also the question of why J.J. Abrams doesn't just direct the movie himself. Love him or hate him, he is still a great movie director and producer, even if his writing is not the best in my personal opinion. Over the past couple of years, since the release of the last Star Trek movie, Star Trek Beyond in 2016, we've heard various news about different Star Trek films in various stages of production. So we might as well take a small look at what the various concepts of this as yet unreleased movie could have been. Now, one such concept for Star Trek 4 was apparently going to see the return of Chris Hemsworth as George Kirk, father of James Kirk, who died at the very beginning of Star Trek 2009. George Kirk would apparently be stuck in a transporter buffer trying to escape the events of the USS Kelvin ramming into the Narada, and this being discovered when more debris of the Kelvin are found many years later. It was going to be helmed by director S.J. Clarkson, which would have marked Trek's first movie directed by a woman. But it was not to be, as the price of keeping the Kelvin crew and having Chris Hemsworth was just too high, and S.J. Clarkson went off to direct other projects, as directors do. Now, we then got the news that Quentin Tarantino was going to direct a Star Trek movie. We have learned that this movie would be written by the Revenant's Mark L. Smith, and the story would take place in a 1930s gangster-style location. Whether this would be related to the great original series episode, A Piece of the Action, where the Enterprise meets a civilization mimicking gangsters from the 1930s in Chicago, who knows. But I will say it definitely sounds interesting and could have given us a very different Star Trek movie than we've seen before, which isn't a bad thing. There was also going to be a Star Trek 4 movie from Fargo creative Noah Hawley. Apparently his movie would have featured a brand new cast and was about a deadly virus that was wiping out areas of the galaxy. Considering how close this concept was to the pandemic in topic at the time, I can see why this was put on a shelf, because that wouldn't have gone down well. We then had WandaVision director Matt Shackelman, but after issues of getting the schedules of our Kelvin crew aligned, Carl Urban doing The Boys, Zoe Saldana having Marvel movies, and 3 more Avatar sequels, and all the other actors who would be doing their own thing, this would not happen. The director finally left when he was given the opportunity to work on Fantastic Four for Marvel. Overall, they seem to be trying to get a Star Trek movie off of the ground, but over the last 6 years of failed attempts, how long will we wait until the Star Trek movie finally gets put into production? If the movie was going to be the A Quality of Mercy route and be an alternate retelling of an original series story, what would you like it to be? A Kelvinverse cyborg seeking God? Spock's brain being stolen from the episode Spock's Brain?
His brain is gone.
I don't know, there's quite a few possibilities. Maybe the Doomsday Machine, that could be pretty cool. Let us know in the comments below, because as always, if you're talking about Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. But for now, I've been Captain Jack, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you very soon. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.